Well, good evening and welcome to the Countdown to Paris on IslandStats.com. I'm your host, Earl Basden. Joining me is Jenny Smack, an Olympian. And guess who else we have? Couture Horton Parentieve. Two Olympians. We're hoping that Brian Wellman does join us this evening. But ladies, first of all, welcome to the first edition of the Countdown to Paris. We're a year away, we're less than a year away from the Olympic Games where we're hoping to have our defending gold medalists in action in the triathlon and a host of other athletes who will be representing this island. But first of all, we want to talk this evening about qualifications and many other things. But Jenny, can you just give us a background so people know who you are and what you were able to accomplish in your tenure as an athlete and the Olympics? Can you just introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thanks, Earl. Good evening, everybody. I know we have an echo on the line, so we're going to do our best this evening. I started swimming at the age of 8. I competed internationally at the age of 9 in the equivalent of what is now known as Costa. And then I continued on swimming. I competed in Commonwealth Games at age 15 in Auckland, New Zealand, and then the Pan Am Games in 91, and then the Olympics in 90. And throughout the career, I set a Caribbean and Central American record, and I believe some of my records are still on the website.
Okay. All right. Well, now that Jenny's introduced herself, Couture Horton Parentieve, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey there. Yeah, I heard the echo too. Hopefully we get it together. I'm Couture Horton Parentieve. Thanks for having us, Earl. I've been here a few times, and it's always such a pleasure. I started competing for Bermuda when I was a little bit older than Jenny. I was probably 19 at the Commonwealth Games. So for me, I've done Commonwealth Games twice. I've done two Pan Am Games and one CAC Games under the BOA banner. And then, of course, I did an Olympic Games in Athens in 2004, diving.
All right. Now we've met the two guests here this evening. Let's talk a bit about Couture. As we all know, the last Olympics, there was a big kerfuffle about qualification standards and so forth. And we want to give the general public um, an idea of what qualifications for the Olympics, which is the mecca of all sport, what they're like. We don't want to have, um, you know, all sorts of things going on at the last minute when the team is announced, who makes it, who doesn't make it. So we want to clear this up tonight and throughout the countdown to Paris 2024. We're going to make sure that everybody understands what it takes to qualify for the Olympics, and that's what we want to do on this journey. But take us through what qualifications look like in general, because every sport has different rules and different regulations as far as qualifying, but we want to make sure that we cover all the bases. But generally, what does qualifications look like for the Olympic Games?
Yeah, it's pretty funny to me that people think that we just go to the Olympics. Nobody just goes to the Olympics. There's a stringent qualification process, as you did mention, Earl. So I love that we started there. The way that you qualify for the Olympics, and as you said, it varies per sport. We have had technical manuals out for goodness, some time now that we've been able to go through. And some sports have technical manuals of 6 pages and others of 26 pages. So it really just depends on the sport. For those sports that are timed, so swimming, athletics, they will have a qualifying standard. So in swimming, it's an Olympic qualifying time, and same for athletics. So you'll see that, or that we have a triple jumper. So there's also a distance that he must jump in order to get there. The other thing, though, some sports have ranking qualifications. So also for triple jump, we're looking at ranking in the world. For our rower and our sailors, we're looking at rankings. For triathlon, we're looking at rankings. So it really does, they're pitting the best of the best across the globe per region, and then we're going to get an overall ranking. So it really just depends on the sport, but we are looking for athletes to reach automatic qualifying standards, and then we can go from there.
One of the things that we want to make sure that everybody understands is how athletes make that qualifying standard. Jenny, let me ask you, back when you were swimming, the standards were the standards, but making sure you met that qualifying standard, how important was it as an athlete to ensure that you made those qualifying standards, and the fact that you were able to put your name down as an Olympian?
Yeah, I think the qualifying standard is really the ultimate goal for an athlete, or going to the Olympics is a dream, and the standard is really, for me, it allows that sense of true accomplishment. As an example, and perhaps some don't know, I missed the standard for sole by less than a tenth of a second. So I didn't get to go. I missed the standard, and there was no debate. And I guess at that point, some folks, it would make them work harder or walk away. And for me, it was just greater incentive to put my head down, train, dedicate, and really shoot for the 92 standard. And I was actually fortunate to make it in 91 at the Pan Am Games and have that year to train and prepare.
One of the most important things, and this is for both of you, one of the most important things is for the athlete to feel as if they deserve to be an Olympian. I mean, making the standard, getting to that pinnacle of their career. I mean, we see a lot of people, and Katurah, I'm going to ask you, because there are other ways to make it to the Olympics. We have the B standard for different sports. We also have the universality. We have different ways. However, what we've seen over the last few years is people taking the universality, and then once they become an Olympian, kind of walk away from the sport and walk away from everything, leaving nothing. When I say nothing, leaving not even able to go back and help the sport that gave them the opportunity. Is that one of the things that has kind of frustrated the BOA, or has kind of frustrated sport in general?
So to be fair, I don't think that the BOA is frustrated. I think that it's always a wonderful occasion when our athletes, when our Olympians give back. And that's why I'm so proud of the fact that we have 3 Olympians on the standards committee who are actually at the helm, working with, Jenny, correct me, I think it's 5 other people, so we're 8 in total. To make sure that these standards are met, to enable our athletes. We're the ones who are able to release funding to them for preparation and things. We fund their sports psychology. We fund some of their nutrition, their gym. So all of their preparatory activities to get to those standards. So I wouldn't say that the BOA is frustrated by that. But what I will say is that universality is, and this is for people who do not know sport, universality is, for all intents and purposes, a wild card. So if you are from a country that has not been able to qualify an athlete in a specific sport, you can apply for a wild card spot. And so those wild card spots, they're called universality, are given by the International Federation and the organizing committee so that they can have participation in the event and a country can fly its flag. Obviously, the Bermuda Olympic Association has grown from strength to strength. The last time that we sent an athletics athlete on universality was in 2004. So we have actually qualified all of our track and field and athletics athletes. It was track and field back then, Earl, but our athletics athletes, every single edition of the Olympics since then. And we didn't get one in Tokyo, but we are hopeful that we get a few in Paris. And what it does is it incentivizes athletes to qualify for the next time. That's what we're hoping to get. What we don't want is a reliance on a gifted spot over and over again within any sport, really. So we're looking for athletes to reach those qualifying standards, which really is an indication that they are at the top of everybody's game and that they belong in the field that we're putting them in. And as you said at the top of the show, Earl, this is the pinnacle of athletic success. So if you are an Olympian, we want you to be in the field with the Olympians. You're a finalist, you're a qualifier, you're a semifinalist, you're someone who's going to get a PB in an Olympic field. So I think that is the main sort of goal for the standards committee, for the BOA, and we're looking to qualify a bunch of athletes this time.
Jenny, let me ask you, your first Olympics. Take us through the excitement that you would have felt when you would have left wherever you were leaving to fly into the country where the Olympics were, and then getting into the village, being around athletes and so forth. Give us your experience.
Sure. Preparation was not only just before, there was a lead up in terms of training that spanned months. So there was an excitement kind of from the spring into the summer. There was, because they were in Barcelona, we had some preparation in Wales prior. And at that time, we didn't have a 50-meter pool here. So I would often spend summers training at the Hall of Fame in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with the US athletes, many of whom participated in the Olympics. So whether it was in Florida, and then that particular games went to Wales on our way over to Spain, got used to the 50-meter pool. And then we were in the village several days prior to the opening ceremonies, did elect to participate in the opening ceremonies because my event was day 2. But lots of excitement. But candidly, Gareth Davis, our coach, was very, very good at keeping us focused on performance. We weren't there for a social event. We were there to perform. And I'm proud to say that I did achieve a PB and managed to navigate the excitement and all that comes with the Olympics.
Well, Keturah, I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts on that same question because we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, Keturah, you give us your experience at your first Olympics. We'll be right back.
putting down the weapons.
You seeing this? John Barrett & Son is bringing us something fresh and exciting for the new year. Vi Antioxidant Infusion Beverage. Vi delivers the natural antioxidant benefits of the coffee fruit in glorious combination with a variety of exotic fruit flavors, with only 1 gram of sugar and 10 calories per bottle. The folks at Vi are inviting us on a world tour through these amazing flavors. Brasilia blueberry, Zambia Bing cherry, Costa Rica clementine, Malawi mango, Panama peach, Ipanema pomegranate, Kupang strawberry kiwi, and more. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Well, Couture, are you ready to answer the question? That experience you had in your first Olympics.
So, Earl, I've only had one Olympics. So there's no first Olympics for me. There was a one and only Olympics. And unlike Jenny, who knew at the Pan Am Games before, I did not know until the absolute last minute that I was going. I think we were about 3 weeks out of the Olympic Games. I was not high up on the qualifying list. For diving, we had to be top 35 in the world. And then we had to also reach a score. So for me, I mean, I had gone to the World Cup. I had gone to World Championships and placed pretty far down, 43rd. And so I knew that wasn't going to do it. And then by the time I was at World Cup Championships, which was the year before the Olympics, in the Olympic pool in Athens, I was diving like a champ. I was doing really great. And I think what people probably don't know is that they do limit the number of competitors. So there is, for us, it was 35 divers, 35 men, 35 women. So a lot of those people had been decided long before those of us who were trickling in trying to get spots had been decided. So I'm still in Texas. I was at the University of Texas. I had graduated that same year, but I stayed on to dive with Coach Matt Scoggin just in case I got the call. I had placed 34th at World Cup. We knew it was going to be close because by that point, those bottom lot, so between 25 and 35, we were all jockeying for spots. And it really could have gone anyway. And so when I saw myself finish at 34th at World Cup, I said, okay, I still have a chance. So as countries were accepting spots or declining spots, and that's the thing that I think people don't understand as well, a lot of people don't, is that even if you do qualify for the Olympics, the National Olympic Committee is the body that can elect to send you. So some of those countries were like, oh, this is not going to be a medalist. So since this is not going to be a medalist, we're not even going to send that person, and we're not even going to waste our time and money sending that person, which was great for me because Bermuda was going to send me if I reached qualification and was able to go ahead. So luckily, at the 11th hour, I got a call, and it was just sheer jubilation. So off we go to Athens. Unlike Jenny, I did not opt out of the opening ceremony. Luckily, swimming was the first week. Kira Aiken was my roommate and flag bearer at the Athens Olympics, and she did not opt out of the opening ceremony either. So that was, I mean, for us, I know that was one of the most memorable moments, walking into that stadium and hearing Bermuda and having the entire stadium erupt and just waving at everybody back at home and knowing that we had the support of 64,000 people back at home was incredible. But yeah, no, we had very different journeys to the Olympics, me and Jenny.
And I mean that those are the type of stories that people have to understand what it's like, because you a lot of people see the athletes walking in waving and so, but it's the emotion of knowing you're representing your country. You're going to be there. You're not just representing yourself, your family, you're representing a nation, and a small nation at that as well. Jenny, take us through qualifications for you. I know you said you met that standard at the Pan Am Games, and but take us through that qualification. And you missed out the years before, so take us through that I guess that emotional ride of forcing yourself to be better, to want to do better, to do everything you can to make it, and make it as early as possible.
Yeah, there are things that are known, and I tell my swimmers now, who am I coach, a lot of it we know in terms of the formula, the hard work, the training, the preparation. There's some things, there's some variables. Of course, injury is one of them that are unforeseen, but the standards were published well in advance of the Olympics, and so for Seoul. Um, the standard was, I think it was a 114, and then it got faster 4 years later. But in my mind's eye, it was just a labor of love. I don't know that I spent a lot of time even thinking about any variable other than the standard was the standard. That's what I needed to hit, and I was going to do everything possible to achieve it. So I'm pretty focused. Those who know me know that when I set my mind to something, it really is all consuming, and so that's what it was about for me. I was in school here at Warwick Academy. Up until I graduated, and then I did a year at the Petty School. But all of my training was here for that, with the exception of the summers.
And Katura, hearing that, it's got to be a remarkable feat, because how many athletes locally based have qualified for the Olympics? Not many at all. Because one, facility, two, um, athlete, competition wise, because you always want to test yourself, you always want to be up against somebody, so all of that is things that people look into, and as Angela Bean has indicated, it's an honor to be able to represent your nation. Yes, it is, because when you compete, your nation is behind you. And I know from watching our athletes over the years, being at major festivals over the year, to watch them, how they handle themselves and take the pressure. You've been a chef, um, on a few occasions, and you see how the athletes kind of, if they don't do well, they're really disappointed. They're down. It's one of those things where they feel like they're let their nation down, not just themselves. But as former athletes, what do you think we need to do to encourage others to meet the goal of the pinnacle of their sport? Not even if it's not the Olympics, but the pinnacle of their sport. What do you think, as former athletes, you guys need to do to encourage young people to reach that goal? And I'll start with you, Katora.
So, can I just start with the fact that I had no idea that that was Jenny's story? Like, that is incredible, because if we're talking about she was training in 25-meter pools and then going to the Olympics in a 50-meter pool. So, I mean, Jenny is a smidge older than I am, just a smidge, Jenny. But I remember watching her in 92. I was 9 years old, watching a Bermudian woman in the pool. And it was just such an incredible honor. So for me to say, you know what, one day that's going to be Katura Horton Parentjeev, that was really, I think that's really the importance of having Bermudian heroes like that. And it's what Flora Duffy has done for all of us, not just in triathlon, for all of us. And I hope that it's what our Olympians as a whole, as a group, do for the people of Bermuda and the children of Bermuda, that you know, if you can see it, you can achieve it. So I think my main advice for them would be very much like Jenny's advice. And it's that, I mean, you just forge forward, you focus and you shut out the noise. The person who makes the standard is you. So yes, there are coaches there, and there are sports psych people, and there are trainers, and you do all of these things, and you eat right, and you hydrate. You do all of these things in order to make yourself better. And if you can, there's an incredible saying, and it's my mother's alma mater, my family's alma mater, the Barclay Institute, says keep the end in view, and you should always keep the end in view. So respectez finem. There are so many different things that will try and pull you off of track, if it is parties, or if it's a side job, or if it's a significant other, or if it's just anything. If you want to be at the pinnacle, you must almost be singularly focused. And I think for a lot of us, that will be the common story, that at one point we had to decide to put our heads down and forge forward on one singular path with a specific goal at the end.
And Jenny?
Yeah, you know, when I think about what's available today, and the opportunities that exist for athletes today, gosh, I would be so excited to have those afforded to me. Technology's advanced, a sports psychology and mindset, not only for athletes, but for coaches, a team approach to excellence, not just, you know, the athlete in the pool. So for me, it is the singular focus, it is the dedication, but there's so much more available in order to assist with you reaching the pinnacle. And you know, it's tough. It's tough to say to athletes today because they don't have a frame of reference. I didn't have a frame of reference for those who inspired me and came before me. But I would also say leverage the opportunities. Let's be humble and open to what's out there and available, not only to you as an athlete, but I've heard Katura say this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, demand the support and some of the opportunities that are available. And if it's not just financial, I find some of the challenges are financial, but some of it is just mindset. And I'd love to see us take more or greater advantage of what's available.
So, what I've heard from the two of you is very encouraging words for our athletes, especially young ones. And the one of the things is that we want to encourage them to have pride in yourself. Make sure you're doing the right things. And Couture, you touched on it. You might have to skip a party here and there to make sure that you go training. And Jenny, I know if you're training here in a 25-meter pool for a 50-meter event, you probably missed a lot of nights with friends, movies, dinner, parties, and just the sacrifice of what you were able to do in this country to allow you to be on center stage globally would have been a big sacrifice. And as Katura said, I've never heard that story before. So I mean, I was amazed by what you were able to accomplish right here on this island. So I have to applaud that accomplishment in itself because, again, not many athletes have qualified for the Olympics, let alone major festivals in this country. You have most of our athletes do it abroad, and to be able to train here and accomplish that, that's remarkable. And I can't stand up enough for that. What we're going to take our second commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Jenny Smack and Couture Horton Parent-Chief, our two former Olympians. Oh, no, never former, because once an Olympian, always an Olympian. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here.
to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born. I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Here's one of our favorite feature brands, true veterans of the food awareness movement. Bob's Red Mill, the U.S. leading miller of organic whole grain foods. Only whole grains have the entire value developed during growth. And once you try them, you know that this is the way food was intended to be. Try Bob's Red Mill blanched almond, whole wheat pastry, and artisan bread flours, and 1-to-1 gluten-free baking flour, unsweetened shredded coconut, gluten-free homemade wonderful bread mix, and a variety of rolled oats. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. For Keturah, as the chairman of the standards committee, let me ask you, have the standards for Bermuda athletes been set as of yet for, I know the answer, Paris, because we only have a year to go. So over to you.
Earl, they've been set. Everybody knows what they are. What we did differently this time was publish them on the BOA website. So at olympics.bm, you can see all of the sports that have thrown their hat into the ring trying to reach qualification, with the exception of archery. And so we're hoping to get the archery standards up on the website, but they have been set for, oh my gosh, a long time, Earl. So we're trying to be transparent. We want everybody to know what they are. And I think if you can see it, you can achieve it type of thing. So they know the standards. I think we have a lot of athletes that are working very, very hard to get there, and a lot of them that are close. So fingers crossed.
So let me ask you, how often is the standards committee in touch with coaches for various sports? Now, I wouldn't say athletes, for various sports, only because a lot of the coaches sometimes are misled and not understanding what they would look at okay, so we'll use track and field. The U.S. set a standard at a certain thing, and not necessarily is the U.S. standard our standard. And people have to understand that. Is that correct?
No, that's actually not correct. So we have the International Federation sets the standard. So for example, for the 100 meter in men, it's 10 flat. So it is Speedy Gonzalez. If you are not that mouse, you probably won't make it. So the International Federation sets that based on a number of calculations. Swimming, same way. So these are very, very speedy. Now, so all of those are published. Now, when it comes to such things as universality. So universality, as we explained before, is a bit of a gifted spot. But what we would like to do, and what we have done, is put standards into place to ensure that when we do send an athlete on universality, that athlete is not outside of their depth. We want to make sure that the athletes that we're sending to Paris are better than the athletes that we sent to Tokyo, are better than the athletes that we sent to Rio, et cetera, et cetera. So we should be steadily improving. And as Jenny said, these standards just keep getting faster as the globe gets faster. So our athletes have to get faster. And I think the other most poignant thing, that one of the things that Jenny has said today, is the amount of opportunity that these athletes have to actually reach those heights, because when you know better, you do better. We have sports science now, we have sports like none of us had any of that. They were like, go, tough it out, let's go. And that was it. Now we're looking at the athlete as a whole person. We're looking at what they need to get from point A to point B. And not only do we know, they know, because they have the internet and they have social media and they talk to each other throughout the globe. They know what everybody's doing. So the standards are set, the standards are known, the standards are what they are. And I think we have a lot of athletes who are aiming for those standards, and we can only stand behind them and cheer them on to victory. And as they achieve those standards, we'll celebrate those, because for a lot of us, and you know, Jenny may have PB'd at the Olympics, but I certainly did not. I was a bag of nerves. And just like you said, Earl, you know, there was some disappointment there when I didn't dive my best. So for me, the pinnacle of my Olympic success was getting there, was qualifying for the Olympics. So I was really excited about that. I think for our athletes, that is the first big step. When they get that call that says you've reached qualification or you've reached a quota, you've gotten a spot, then they can do a little bit of a celebratory dance.
Jenny, let me ask you, why are you giving back as part of the standards committee for the Olympics? I think it's very important to understand that.
Well, I would like to think, first of all, I was invited to participate. And upon receiving that invitation, I assume it was because of, you know, being an Olympian partly, and also my experience. It was important to me to shed some light based on my experience. And that's all I can do, is participate based on the lens and the privilege that I enjoyed and the life experience that I enjoyed as a result of the opportunities presented to me, and a little bit of luck and good fortune. And it's important to give back, because I think, as with many topics, there's a lot of discussion, there are differing views. And what I bring to the table is a view of experience, a view of being in touch with the sport as it is today as well. I work with young athletes who are aspiring to meets and competitions as high as the Olympics. So I bring a number of different lenses to the table, and I just trust and hope that my voice, as Keturah said, as one of 8, does carry some weight, and at the very least prompts some thought and is rooted in experience and logic and what I see around me.
Keturah, I gotta bring this up, because a few years ago you came under heavy criticism, you know, under one issue where swimmers were not allowed to go. Let me ask you, what did you learn about that has kind of helped you to be another person, a better person through the process of being on the standards committee? Because clearly it would affect you, you know, with youngsters not seeing the go, not being able to go, but rules were put in place to have them make the standard, and unfortunately didn't. So what did you learn about yourself throughout that whole process?
You know what, Earl, I think that there may have been some sort of misconception around that entire process, that we somehow were gatekeeping the Olympics, and that I need you to know that we were absolutely devastated when we didn't reach qualification, not just in swimming. We did for the first time in a long time. We didn't send an athletics athlete. We didn't send a sailor. So, you know, there were sports that we expected to get in and people were just short. And I mean, sometimes in sport, that's the way the cookie crumbles. What I do think that we learned, and I will always say we, because I am but one person on the standards committee. And I think that it's important also to know the structure of the BOA in that the standards committee makes recommendations based on data, based on quarterly reports from athletes and from coaches, from their national sports governing bodies. And we put all of that together and make decisions and recommend to the executive board. The executive board has, I want to say 12 people on it. So we're talking about a plethora of eyes and brains that all of these decisions go through. What I think the standards committee learned was a need to be transparent and to be more vocal, which is really why we're here with you today, Earl, and thank you again for having us and for giving us a platform to talk about this, because we don't want it to be shrouded in secrecy and clear as mud. That's not what anybody wants. And what we have found is that, you know, in this age of information, ignorance is a choice. And what we need to do is ensure that we are definitely not ignorant to the fact that maybe we did not publish these things on our website. Maybe there were athletes or coaches or parents or members of the public who did not know what had to happen in order for each and every athlete, not just in one sport, in all of our sports, to get to the Olympic Games. So while I do chair the committee, as I said, I'm the baby of the committee. You know, it's unfortunate that Brian wasn't able to join us tonight, but that's a 4-time Olympian. So Brian knows quite a bit about qualifying for an Olympic Games. We've got data guides, we've got people with history like Michael Cherry, who has been there for, I mean, so many presidents. And just, I think that it's important to note that we grow as our athletes grow. As an organization, we grow. As a committee, we grow. And I'm really excited that we have taken this type of initiative to be more transparent with NSGBs, National Sports Governing Bodies, to be more transparent with athletes. Our Athletes Commission has worked very hard to convey the messages from the Standards Committee and the Executive Board to the athletes. So nobody should be confused. And I think that's going to benefit everybody in the long run.
Well, I mean, just hearing that kind of, you know, opens up and makes people understand what that transaction or that transition was like a few years ago, because it almost looked like the BOA were denying athletes of an opportunity to go to the Olympics. And I think, you know, some people within even the media were trying to portray it as that way, and never, I guess, gave the BOA an opportunity to explain themselves, because they went on in a different way. And it was unfortunate, the whole circumstances. You know, I would have loved to seen both of those athletes go to the Olympics, but the rules were set. And you know, we have to move on from that, and I think this is a platform that would assist in helping people to understand that we have standards, we have rules, we have regulations, and the BOA will, I guess, will not bend in the rules and regulations to allow somebody to, you know, have an opportunity that they didn't qualify for, and that's the unfortunate thing. Jenny said it earlier.
I'm sorry. So I just that's perfectly said. I think the other thing is the notion that there's an opportunity to compete at the Olympics. It's not an opportunity that's given. This is not a developmental meet in any way, shape, or form. This is the pinnacle of athletic excellence. We have an Olympic champion under our banner now. So this is not something, we are not going to the Olympics on vacay in any way, shape, or form. And you know what? When I was chef for Commonwealth Games, I said the exact same thing. And nobody slapped me around then, but we did not go to the Gold Coast on vacation. We did not go to the last Commonwealth Games on vacation. And we have improved in leaps and bounds as we have put the standards into place. And let me tell you, and Jenny will back me up on this, I know, because we've had so many conversations at the committee around this. The amount of faith that we have in our athletes to reach those standards is just astronomical. We were just as actually flabbergasted that they weren't reaching the standards. We were like, oh my, they're close, let's get it, come on. So, you know, every time these guys start at a starting block or get out there and start their competition, we are eyes glued to this screen saying, let's go, like, come on. And we have so much faith that they will make it. So there is none of this, you know, it brought us no joy to do that, none whatsoever. And there are several events that they must go through. What's great about the Olympic movement now, and actually the Commonwealth Games movement as well, is that there are now youth events. So we're not throwing children who have never had this level of competition to the sharks. So we're getting youth Commonwealth Games, junior Pan Am Games, the Caribbean Games, which is the junior version of the CAC Games. And then even within the senior games, the CAC Games is our first sort of entry to senior competition. The Commonwealth Games and the Pan Am Games are next in line. And the Pan Am Games is actually just a couple notches underneath the Olympic Games. A lot of events at the Olympic Games, at the Pan Am Games are qualifiers for the Olympic Games this year. So the Pan Am Games, which starts in October, is a huge event for our athletes. So if they have qualified to go to the Pan Am Games, and we can't wait to go ahead and announce that team soon, Earl, so we're excited about that. But if they have qualified for those games, we're expecting them to be in the running for qualification for the Olympics. And at the end of the day, there are developmental meets that get you to the Olympics, but the Olympic Games is not a developmental meet. It is not a time to throw somebody to the wolves, to the sharks, in their first major international competition. So, you know, it's not something, and I said this earlier, that when you know better, you do better. I think that there was some controversy when the BOA opted to send a very young Flora Duffy to the 2008 Olympics. We, of course, didn't see her in 2010 for the Commonwealth Games. She had taken a bit of a break. We don't do that to young athletes anymore. We don't do that. They are whole people. We must look at their psyche. We must look at their mental states. We must look at their preparation, both physical and psychological, to be in those types of high pressure competitive situations, so that we don't get early retirement, so that we don't get people who did not enjoy their Olympic experience and don't want to give back to the BOA at some point. They just want to walk away from the sport. We don't ever want that to be a young athlete's experience. Period.
We're going to take our final commercial break. When we come back, we'll close out the show with Jenny Smack and Couture Horton Parentchief, two of Bermudians Olympians.
It seems everyone knows someone who's lactose intolerant or just avoiding dairy products. Unfortunately, there's a growing array of delicious and nutritious alternatives. Pacific Natural Foods have been doing things their own way simply and sustainably for over a quarter century, making non-dairy beverages with the finest possible ingredients right down to the packaging. Try Pacific Natural Original and Vanilla Hemp Milk and Almond Original Plant-Based Beverage, all sweetened or unsweetened, and low-sodium organic vegetable or chicken broth. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy. But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born. I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to France, and that's what I'm thankful for.
They're just putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
And welcome back. Well, as we get to wrap up this first edition of the Countdown to Paris 2024, Jenny, I know you're now back involved in swimming. You're coaching. What has that time been like for you, having been away? Well, I wouldn't even say away from the sport, but just watching from a distance, I guess, and now back really involved in the sport. What is it like for you now?
Yeah, I did need some space for several years. Um, you know, it's different. It's a different point in time. One of the greatest eye openers for me being back on deck was just the level of anxiety, the level of fear, the different dynamics that our athletes are dealing with. It took me first of all, it took me a little bit to realize what was going on. And then I had to educate myself in terms of what some of the dynamics were and how to assist the swimmers. Right now, I have an active dialogue with a sports psychologist, bringing him in, talking with the swimmers, helping to reset. They need a lot more support. There are factors like social media, which we touched on earlier. It can work to their benefit and it can work to their detriment, creating anxiety in the scripts, the stories that are told about them that may or may not be indicative of who they are as young people and as young athletes. So what it's been like for me is really trying to get as much information, learn, and be a vehicle to share knowledge, but also do the best I can to create the pathways for them. And also what I know I bring to the table is candor. I will share with them the opportunities that exist, start talking to them at a young age about the junior meets that Katura referenced. I think we're late on the game if we're having those conversations in our sport at 15, 16, 17. These are conversations that should be active and open at a young age to inspire them. So I've really, really enjoyed it and learned a lot from them.
I'm going to ask you because a lot of people might not know, but with Brandon getting involved in swimming, how much did you see of yourself with him being involved and kind of helping you back involved?
Well, he is the reason I got pulled back in. And, the world and the universe is just a funny thing on so many levels. But, it's been a blessing with both my children. One, Brandon's a swimmer and my youngest is a runner. And my youngest doesn't want to have anything to do with the pool. So, but Brandon... But at the time, Brandon was considering being a competitive swimmer. It was the point in time at which the national program that I had known dissolved. So that was my reason. Yeah, probably similar to the story and how the story started. If there's a problem, let's fix it. And so I jumped in. And that's the reason I went back on deck in partnership with other coaches who saw the same vision at Harbor Club. So that was what pulled me in. And it's Brandon's journey. However he chooses to swim it, forgive the cliche, and wherever it takes him, I'm here to support him. And he doesn't always listen to me. So there you go.
That's the mother-son thing. That's
Riz,
but Keturah, star diving, a passion of yours, just getting kids involved in diving properly. I mean, oh, everybody says I could dive off the rocks, I could do this, I could do that, but star diving, that's your baby. Um, Getting back involved and in a structured environment. How has that been for you for and seeing development in kids?
So the baby is 10. So I don't know if we're a baby anymore. So but it's truly, just as Jenny said, it's been a blessing. My goodness. And you know what? My kids, my star diving kids, dive better at Admiralty Health than anybody. So just a little bragging there. But I think for me, I had to sort of, and I said this in a news interview once, that lately that I had to sort of change what I was thinking of. I wanted elite divers. I wanted a year-round program and all of these things, but our climate and our facility don't really lend themselves to that. But what we do have is 130 kids every single year who are exposed to diving and love diving and know how to do it safely, which was a huge thing for me when I even started camp, because this is something that they hadn't seen before, diving at that level. And now when they do things like dive off the rocks and bridges, which I do not encourage that much, now at least I know that they're safe. They know how to do it, and these are sort of, they're also learning life skills, like the fact that being brave is a choice, and it's nothing like a character trait. It's something that they can wake up and make a decision to be every single day, and that should carry them through life, not just in sport. So all of these little tidbits, and wherever we can fit in the development of our youth, I think is a good thing. And for me, this is where I can do it and where I can really shine.
Well, I'm going to allow you both. I'm going to give you a minute just to talk about what the Olympics means to you, and you personally, and not just your time, but what the Olympics actually means to you. And I'll start with you, Keturah.
You know what? It's something that has always been a dream. I think when you are a little kid, as a sports person, I mean, any young athlete dreams of the Olympics. So it becomes attainable when you're 5. And then as you approach sort of the actual, where it's within your grasp, you're like, is it really attainable? It's so far away. But when you finally get it, it's just sheer jubilation. Now, the Olympic movement is unparalleled. It is about, cultural competency. You meet people from all over the planet. You get, just the overall mutual respect amongst athletes on all of these different sports. 206 national Olympic committees will be competing at the Olympic Games, and we don't all speak the same language, but we all speak sport, and we all speak excellence, and we all speak respect. So at the end of the day, I think the Olympics as a movement is unparalleled, and it's incredible. And it's not politics, it's sport. And it pulls people together who may not have ever had the opportunity to be together and to come together. And I think we're all better for collaborating across the globe. So I'm blessed to be a part of that fraternity, and I'm lucky and honored.
Jenny?
Yeah, that's such a deep question, Earl. I think we could, tackle it from several angles, but it really does represent the pinnacle. And at the very least, the world comes together to watch, to participate, to root, to feel the emotions of, and not to pull from the media, but the wins, the challenges, the stories, the narratives. And I think it's amazing what that means and how powerful it is for the world to come together. And what that does for athletes, it provides inspiration, it provides the motivation to achieve levels that they wouldn't otherwise. And even if they don't qualify, even if they don't go to the Olympics, it allows them to experience a journey through training, through competition, through international festival meets that maybe aren't the Olympics, that are unparalleled. And when you really sit and think about it, it really, really is quite something.
Well, I personally want to thank both of you for joining this evening on the first edition of Countdown to Paris 2024. I know this will not be your last time that you actually be on this show, because we have a lot to discuss, especially as we get after the Pan Am Games, which take place next month. Who qualifies? I know you guys have already said the team should be announced relatively soon, but there's opportunities out there still for some people to qualify for the Paris Games. And we look forward to whomever puts on that Bermuda jersey, regardless of what sport it is, to help them reach their goal. And every athlete, I believe, wants to be at the pinnacle event. And if they qualify, they know they deserve the right to be there. As you've already said, Keturah, and as you said, Jenny, you deserve the right to be there. And that's what we're looking for from our athletes. Excellence, qualification standards, Bermuda proud, do us the best you can. So with that, I would say thank you very much, ladies. Everyone, have a good night.
Thanks, Earl.
Thank you.